And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Bavona, joined alongside as always by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, we're now into week number 5 of this year's National Football League season, and week number 4 definitely brought in some interesting scores last week. Already into week number 5 as of this recording. We're recording just the day after Thursday Night Football last night. A very wild game on Thursday Night Football that certainly went away for me personally. I'll explain a little bit later on in the show about that game, but it was a great game nonetheless between the Niners and the Rams. And now we go into this show today. Going to recap a couple things that happened last week that's going to lead into week number 5. And then we'll be doing our mushing hour, our regular mushing hour, recap, previewing the games on Sunday and, of course, Monday Night Football as well.
Yeah, absolutely chaotic week number 4, and as you mentioned, week number 5 is already on the way. And let's go into our biggest takeaways from last week, Nick.
Yeah, so a little bit of a different change of pace for us, being that it's already Friday, a day after week 5. We're not really going to recap everything that happened last week. There was a lot of things that did happen in week number 4, but a little bit of a different change of styles for us here on the show this week. As you mentioned, we're going to do our biggest takeaways from last week in week number 4. That's going to tie into what's going to happen this upcoming week in week number 5. So it's up to you, Johnson. If you want me to go first, if you want to go first, it's totally up to you. But there are definitely some interesting things that happen in week number 4 that make a lot of good, interesting TV for this upcoming weekend because a couple of big games as well. And it leads us to, I think we have, other than Thursday Night Football, I think we have 6 extra games that we're going to be picking for the mushing hour later on.
Yeah, I'm going to go first here. And the first thing my big takeaway is I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are starting to have buyer's regret with Trevor Lawrence, especially after the emergence of Mac Jones these last couple of weeks. As you remember, they rostered both quarterbacks last year, and while Jones has flourished now in the 49ers system, spoiler alert, Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence have been struggling, even despite their record. They have a good record, but Trevor Lawrence's performance is probably the worst since he's gotten into the league. This is would I dare say on par, maybe not on par from his rookie year, but just maybe a step right above that. Like it's not really that much of a difference, and they're on the hook for a lot of money now. I realize we're only 25% of the way through the season, but it's a large sample size going into this season so far. So if he doesn't really improve in the next game or two this week or next week, you're gonna start having discussions in that locker room. So that's one of my big takeaways.
Yeah, I think what's also interesting about the Jaguars is they're 3-1 right now on the season. They just got a big win against San Francisco this past week on Sunday, and this is, I think, the biggest stretch upcoming for them this week because they have a huge game on prime time on Monday against the Chiefs, and then they have some really big games afterwards. If you're Trevor Lawrence and company, if you're trying to prove that you're going to be a legit guy in this league and be that number 1 pick that everyone expected you to be, this upcoming stretch is really going to be crucial. You have the Chiefs upcoming on Monday, then Seattle, and then the Rams. Those are 3 playoff caliber teams that you have coming up in the next 3. So this is make or break for Trevor Lawrence. I picked the Jaguars at the beginning of the season to win this division, and they've gotten by so far with Lawrence playing playing slightly average right now at best. And that's probably the best terminology I can use for it.
I wouldn't even call him average at best. I would call him a below average quarterback. He's
that might be
under 60% pass rate. He's only averaging around 210 yards a game. He's got if it wasn't for the Bengals game, he'd have two touchdowns on the year, and we all know the Bengals defense has been great this year. He has 3 touchdowns versus the Bengals, and then he has 2 against Carolina, Houston, and San Francisco total. And it's not like the Carolina defense is lighting up the sky right here. I mean, they've given up 42 points to the Patriots last week. The game was over in the third quarter.
Yeah. And keep in mind, they could be 4-0 easily because they probably should have won that game against Cincinnati too. That's the weirdest thing about this team.
Yeah.
Their defense is playing phenomenal. Like they deserve a lot of credit right now for why they're 3-1.
There's a lot of what ifs. What if they had Mac Jones right now? Like what do you like? They would be in such good
I,
shape right now. But
I think a lot of teams would say, "What if we had Mac Jones right now?" The way some of this quarterback play has been going on in the NFL, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that's a statement, but we'll explain it later on. That Thursday night game still, yeah, it's still lingering with me. But last night was an interesting night for a multitude of reasons. But I think one of my biggest takeaways from last week, Johnson, as we move on, I think it's really time to start panicking if you're a Baltimore Raven fan. We mentioned last week on the show about how the defense is playing really bad for this team right now after that game against Detroit. And, this game against the Chiefs this past Sunday really, really was bad looking for them. They started off great in that game early on. A bad second quarter really put them into a big hole. And not for nothing, now they're down Roquan Smith. They're down Marlon Humphrey. They might not have Kyle Hamilton this upcoming weekend. And now they don't have Lamar Jackson. He is also going to be out for this upcoming weekend on the offensive side. And he might be out for, they think the original timeline might be 2 to 3 weeks. So this is big for Baltimore because now they're in a spot where you're pretty much all hands on deck. It's next man up mentality. And now you're 1-3 in the season. So where do they exactly go from here? I think the best case scenario is that they're going to need to fight, get Derrick Henry back to where he was last season if they're going to have any hope of maybe at least going 1-1 or 2-1 in their next couple of games without Lamar Jackson at quarterback.
yeah, big storyline for the Ravens here, and it seems to happen every single year. That there is a one team that we think is so dominant, and then they end up getting, well, I shouldn't say getting, but just being terrible. And the Ravens seem to be that team. They're having guys, free agents, reject offers to be on their defense because no one wants to be a part of
Yeah,
that.
I saw
The
that.
defense is falling apart so much that not even free agents that are begging for an opportunity to be in the NFL want to be part of that train wreck because they think it will just ruin their career or ruin their future prospects here.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you look at their schedule, they have the Texans and the Rams in their next two games. And then they have a bye week and then they're playing the Bears. I think the timeline is Lamar is going to be probably back, looks like, for that Bears game. So they're going to probably give him the 3 weeks to rest. But by that point, they might be 1-5, and
That might
they
be
would
done.
need a they would need a crazy win streak at the end of the season just to make the playoffs. And it's not a guarantee they win, even if they get Lamar back.
Yeah, and if Nick, if you have, if you said your piece here, I have my next big takeaway.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, my Baltimore's just been mind boggling the whole year so far.
Yeah, Green Bay Packers need a reset this week.
Mm.
For a team that we thought looked like one of the most dominant teams in the NFL the first 2 weeks. They've lost back. They've fumbled back-to-back games against the Browns
Yeah,
and the Cowboys.
they tied, but they lost that game against the Cowboys.
Yeah, against
That's
the
a
Browns,
loss.
they had the game won. It was under a minute left in the game, and they end up giving the ball to the Browns, and then they go over get the field goal. And it's crazy. They whatever. You lost that game. It's the Browns have a good defense. You shake it off, right? And then a week later against Dallas in the Sunday night game, all of a sudden Green Bay's dominating, and then with under a minute to go in the second quarter, Dallas catches up.
Yep.
They get 2 touchdowns. It was absolute craziness that a game that should have been what that's really when they left. I don't want to say lost the game, but when they tied the game right there.
Yeah, Green Bay went up 13-0, and once the Cowboys blocked the PAT after the second touchdown, returned it for a 2-point conversion, I said, okay, this could be a turning point in the game because, this is what happened last week against Cleveland where they were up 10-0 and the Browns got a field goal. And then the next drive, the Packers threw an interception that gave the Browns the chance to tie the game, and they did that. So the Packers have been letting teams stay alive in these games, and they're another team that, as you mentioned, first 2 weeks of the season, they were easily a Super Bowl contender the way they were playing. The last 2 weeks, they're not playing to that caliber right now.
Now, I
And
will say
thankfully for them, they have, in a situation where I think they're on a bye week.
they are.
So
They're
that
on a
does
bye
help.
week. It's during week 5, so they're not playing it. And then they have tune-up games versus the Bengals and then the Cardinals. So
Yeah.
this should be a time for them to get ready. They should beat the Bengals next week. Then they should beat the Cardinals, and then they're playing a big game in Pittsburgh. So if they could go into October 2-1. I finish October 2-1 or even 3-0. I know that Pittsburgh Steelers games can be very, very tough. And then you got to lock in. You can have after the Panthers game. Actually, you don't want to count as a bye week yet. You're gonna have Eagles, Giants, Vikings, Lions. So 3 out of 4 of those opponents are very, very tough, and they're playing in New York, which is never fun.
Right.
So it's time to lock in for the Packers because I know their season's not done yet, but this is a 4-0 team, but they're 2-2.
Their
So they got
defense
to lock in.
has to wake up after this game because they looked really bad against the Cowboys. Like George Pickens had his time easily with
Yeah,
the defense.
this was without CD Lamb. So that's one of my
Right.
big takeaways for this week. The Green Bay Packers need a reset.
Yeah. You know who also probably needs a reset or maybe just to make a trade initially is probably the Cincinnati Bengals. That Monday night game was really bad. Like probably one of the worst games I've watched. And there was just no fight from this team from the opening kickoff. They got the first 3 points of the game. The Broncos scored the next 28 points. And I think the issue for the Bengals, and it's really obvious, is that Browning's just not it right now. He can't move the ball. The game plan that they had for this game was just really weird because I feel like every pass attempt in this game, Johnson, I'm not sure how much of this game you did watch. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't watch it. Most of their game plan that they did in this game was throwing a fade route to T. Higgins, and it never worked. Like I don't think they got one completion after getting a fade route to Higgins. Every play, pretty much that they completed was underneath. It was like a 5-yard pickup. Their longest pass attempt of the night that was completed was 22 yards. So it's like this offense is just not moving the ball. They can run the ball, which has been a problem all season. Their offensive line is absolutely terrible. Browning's not making it any better at quarterback. He really can't do anything. Even if he was decent, he's still making really boneheaded decisions at the quarterback position. The Bengals, at this point, if they really want to make a playoff spot, they've got to make a trade with someone for a quarterback. The Giants obviously are the team to probably call because they have 2 guys that are better than him, in my opinion, in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. But if I'm Cincinnati, you need to do something as soon as possible because you cannot roll with this guy the rest of the season. It's just not possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think the only other takeaway I'll have this week, Nick, and I'll go make it short and sweet for you, are the Tennessee Titans are still bad. And that's not really a takeaway, but my takeaway is
Well,
that they may be winless until week 11 here, week 12.
well, should I quote what Cam Ward said about them at the end of
Yeah,
the game?
please do.
He said, "I'm going to keep it a buck. We ass." That's end quote.
Yeah,
That's exactly
it's.
what he said
I
about the
mean,
game.
listen, I
Or the
get
game.
it. He's the number one overall QB. I didn't have much expectation for him. Uh, I didn't think this was really a strong quarterback class, but the Titans need to figure something out.
Yeah.
This is a team that could be winless until November. When
hmm
you listen to the next 5 games, at Cardinals, at Raiders, okay, they're on the road, young quarterback, you're assuming they're going to lose those games, right? Then you're hosting the Patriots. It's going to be interesting because that should be the end of their quote unquote easier schedule because they'll have the Saints, Titans, and Browns in that stretch. So, no, this could be like a 500 Patriots team, maybe one game over 500, and you don't think they should lose a game like that on the road, especially the team that's like 0-6 at that point. And then they're at Indianapolis, and then they're hosting the Chargers, and then week 10 they have a bye week. So this could be a winless team up until November, and then
Yeah.
they're going to play the Texans again. So maybe they could beat the Texans. So that's maybe the next game I could see that they would definitely I could see them winning that game. Again, obviously this is all speculation. The NFL's crazy, and they could just go into go into Arizona and beat the Cardinals 35-0 this week. But
I
right
could.
now,
I hate to say it, I could see them winning that game on Sunday, which is
yeah,
crazy
I
to think.
definitely could too. I definitely get it's any given Sunday.
Yeah.
But right now, the Titans don't have anything. They don't have a run game. They don't really have real receivers. I mean, who's their number one target right now?
It's
It's not
great.
Calvin Ridley because you would expect it to be Calvin Ridley, but it's
It's
not.
Eli Minor, the rookie from Stanford, I think.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you think, okay, Ridley is on the Titans, he'll be fine, but now
He
he's
did really
battling that.
good. Remember, he had a monster second half last season. Everyone,
Yeah,
when we did our fantasy football preview, we were looking at guys from the Titans because we figured, okay, this offense should get a significant upgrade because they have now a rookie quarterback. It's not like they have last year with Mason Rudolph and Will Levis. Like this should be a better offense this season, and it's been
Well, if you
far and
lock a
above.
run game too,
Right.
Tony Pollard
Tony Pollard.
is the only guy, and
And Pollard was good last year too.
yeah, the guy he was in Dallas with the guy he was last year is not the same guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was averaging back in Dallas. This is a couple years ago. He was averaging over 5 yards per carry, and now he's under 4.
Yeah.
So like, there's clearly a large drop off here. I don't know if that's not got the offensive line or whatever it is, but
It's got
the
to be the
guy's
offensive
not.
line,
He is
but
not
yeah.
old. He's only 28 years old. So this guy's still in the prime of his career for a running back.
Yeah. Yeah, to tell you, they got to fire Callahan. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yep, you got to just kind of clean house. You got to make sure. It sucks to say this, but like, if you're gonna clean house as a head coach, like, you have to give him his choice at quarterback, and it's not really fair to Cam. So that's why I don't really agree with that philosophy yet. I think they have to give him at least one more year with Cam before kind of hitting the reset button, because not Cam's gonna flounder.
Right. Yeah, I think at this point, by the time November hits, so you mentioned the Titans being winless by that point, they probably might have a new head coach by that point too. I don't think Callahan would make it if they go 0-6 or 0-7.
9,
Yeah, like
9 at that point, yeah.
he'll get fired midseason at that point. Like it's gonna happen. It's been that bad. I thought initially when they made the hire to get Callahan that the offense would improve because he did some great things in Cincinnati. It has been the complete opposite of that since he got hired. It's been really bad. My next biggest takeaway, it's unfortunately been a common trend for the NFL this season. It's been injuries. It's been a really bad year for star players getting injured. None bigger than what I think, in my opinion, I don't want to say none bigger, but we saw 2 significant injuries to wide receivers this past week. Tyreek Hill, of course, had that gruesome injury on Monday Night Football. That could be a career ender. Like, he's going to play, but he might not be the same Tyreek Hill after this injury, considering his age already at this stage point of his career. And then we saw Malik Neighbors tear his ACL, unfortunately, on Sunday. And the Giants Giants get their first win of the season too, and it sucked because that game was a mixture of highs and lows. Like, Jackson Dart looked decent enough in that game, and then Neighbors tears his ACL, and everyone's like, "Well, we won the game, but at what cost?" Because now Neighbors is out for the whole year, so you really can't see that Dart connection with Neighbors other than that first drive they had. So for me, one of the biggest takeaways has been injuries because we've seen guys like Joe Burrow get hurt, guys like Mike Evans, James Conner, now Neighbors and Tyreek Hill, Aaron Jones. Like, there's some big name players that if you went into the season as a big fantasy football guy, these are guys that you're looking at the draft in your fantasy drafts, and now they're all out for the majority of the season, or they already out, or they already are ruled out for the whole season. So I think that's just a huge takeaway right now. It's that injuries, I think, to me, have been significantly increased from what we've seen in previous years.
Yeah, it's crazy to talk about this, but here we are. And we have to talk about the injury bug at MetLife. They really need to put grass
Oh,
there.
yeah.
It's claimed so many injuries, especially over the last 5 years. It's a laundry list of names, and it's shocking to kind of read it out loud.
Nick Bosa, Saquon, Odell, like, just to name a few. Um, Aaron Rodgers, of course, that injury he had a couple years ago. Yeah, it's crazy. I think the more weird thing about the Neighbors injury is that it was the same exact injury that Odell got when he got hurt, and it was also against the same team that it happened against too. It was the Chargers also, which I forgot completely about. And it sucks because all those injuries pretty much happened at the beginning of the season. Like, it wasn't like later in the year. Like, they literally lost these guys like week 3, week 1, week 2. Like, it was the first 3 weeks of the season these injuries were happening. So yeah, it sucks. I mean, it sucks being obviously seeing Neighbors hurt, but even if you're a fan of like, obviously we just talked about the Bengals with Burrow, like, that's injury sucks. Tyreek Hill going down, like, the teams that we were talking about this last week, or might have been 2 weeks ago, that we probably expected Tyreek Hill to get traded at some point this season, and now that's gone out the window
His career might
for
be
any
over.
team. That I think it really could be.
I,
Yeah,
I think it really, because if
he's
it
32,
takes
right?
him, he'll be, if he comes back next year, he'll be 32 years
He's
old.
gonna play, but he's not gonna be the same. I don't think he's gonna be the same guy.
I'm
That's
thinking,
a rough injury
if
at this point.
I mean, obviously we know a little bit more about the injury, but my first impression was okay. If he tore everything in his knee, it's going to take at least 18 months. So he's going to miss 2 years, and then he'll be 33 years old. He'll have all
Yeah,
this rust. I'm like, it's really unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it sucks for the Dolphins because it's the same thing like the Giants. Like they get their first win of the season, but it came at a cost. They lose their star receiver to a really bad injury, unfortunately. Nothing like that though. I mean that was a really bad one to look at. Like I don't recommend. People have probably seen the video by now, but like I don't recommend watching it because it was that bad. Um, is there any other takeaway you had from this past week before we go into the mushing or before we recap Thursday Night Football?
No, let's go into the recap here.
All right, so last night we had a big game in the NFL kicking off this week. A battle of 3-1 teams between the Niners and the Rams in that game. So last week we didn't get to make, or for this week we didn't get to make our pick for that game. We made that pick off the air. I believe you went 49ers plus 8.5, and I took the under for that
I
game.
did.
Okay, so we both had a good 1-0 start in the week. Nice start to the week for us. And let's talk about this game exactly, Johnson. Of course, the storyline going into this game: no Brock Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall, no Jawan Jennings. They're still without George Kittle. So the Niners are a depleted roster right now in terms of injuries and who's starting. And you got to give their credit to this Kyle Shanahan and the rest of this staff. They had a phenomenal game plan last night against the Rams and making sure that Mac Jones and company had the best case scenario to win this game. Mac Jones, despite having an injury going into the game, was phenomenal. Like he did not do anything wrong in terms of trying to beat this Rams team. Christian McCaffrey didn't really flash in terms of getting rush yards, but he was a big reason. He was a big pass catcher for Mac Jones, as well as I can't believe I'm saying it, but Kendrick Bourne was amazing in this game. He had 142 yards receiving in this one, getting that old, as you mentioned it last night in a text message with me, uh, old Patriot vibes with Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne thriving
Yeah,
in
it was
this
actually like the
offense.
2021 Patriots right now. That's how I felt
Yeah.
like watching this game.
And to the Rams' credit, they fought back. They trailed early 14-0. They made this a game late. And well, I think if you're a Rams fan, I think the really frustrating part about this game is that they had so many opportunities to come back and probably win. They had a big fumble in the first half when they got inside of the 30-yard line of the Rams on a pitch or a toss to Kyron Williams, and they just muffed the snap on the pitch, and the 49ers got a recovery there. Williams had a big drop on third down to start the second half. He had and of course, I'm going to get to it now, but he had a monster fumble late in the game inside the goal line with under a minute left that would have put the Rams up by 4 points and would have put pressure on Mac Jones and company to go down the field and score a touchdown. The fumble forced the Rams to get a stop on defense. They did get the stop, thankfully, because they had all 3 timeouts because the Niners were inside the 5. The Rams do get the field goal to send the game in overtime. But another problem for the Rams in this game was their kicking issues. They had a missed field goal from Cardi. They had a blocked PAT that would have put them up 21-20 when they did tie the game at 20 apiece. And then Cardi to start the overtime period, kind of similar to what we saw the week prior, which is fun, weird coincidence, Johnson. But he has a kickoff that misses the landing zone of this new NFL kickoff style. So because of that, the Niners get the ball at the 40-yard line. Excellent field positioning. They get a field goal to go up by 3 points. The Rams go down the field, have a chance to tie the game, and this decision by Sean McVay was just weird because they get it to 4th and 1. I think they were at around like the 15-yard line, maybe the 14, and they have the decision to make. Do you take the points with about 3 minutes left and change? Do you take the points, put your defense back on the field, and see if you can stop Mac Jones one more time, or give him the chance to win the game with just a field goal? Or do you go for it on 4th down, try to convert, and go for the touchdown to win the game? What they do in that spot, they first send the offense out there. The Niners call a timeout. They then bring the offense back out there. They try to draw them off sides. Does not work. Rams call a timeout. So after 2 timeouts, I think everyone probably thought, all right, they're probably going to just take the points because you wouldn't just have 2 timeouts burned, one from your opponent and one from yourself, and you would probably just go to overtime, keep the overtime game going. They decided to keep the offense out there, and unfortunately for them, they decide to give a handoff to Kyron Williams. He gets stuffed on the play. They don't convert the fourth down conversion, and they lose this game 26-23 and fall to 3-2. And it's really tough if you're the Rams because you've lost now 2 out of your last 3 games in just really bad fashion. That blocked field goal against the Eagles, and now a 4th-and-1 misstep against this Niners team that was depleted in terms of roster. And now the Niners at the end of the week, regardless even if Seattle wins on Sunday, is going to be in first place despite not having their starting quarterback, the top 3 receivers, and their starting tight end as well.
Yeah, here we are here, and I always kind of I don't want to say I warned you about Mac Jones, but I said it's not going to be an easy game. Thursday night
I didn't
football
think it
games
was.
are weird, and you're in the Bay Area, even though you're not really, I shouldn't say in the Bay Area. You're still in the state of California.
Yeah, the Niners fans, regardless, were
We're gonna show up.
they outranked the Rams fans in that game anyway.
Yeah, so I don't want to say it was a Niners home game, but it was
It was a Niners home game.
Probably a neutral site game at best. And yeah, Mac looks like he turned back the clock, and he looks like a really valuable quarterback right now.
Yeah.
For a team that's he played hurt last night too. We don't know the extent of his injuries right now, but
he was getting rocked at the end of that game. Like, I'm surprised he stayed in.
He's one of only a couple quarterbacks to be at least 3 wins on the season with no losses. Like him, Josh Allen, a couple, and I think it's one other guy, but I can't remember right now. That's the quarterback escapes my name right now, but he's having a productive season. He's only played a couple games, and Brock Purdy's gonna get the starting job back. But you have to kind of wonder that the Niners, even though despite all the losses, right, they don't have Ricky Pearsall, they're missing other wide receivers, and don't have George Kittle. The Niners look better with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
True or false?
No, they do. They're 3-0 with him, and
this was the guy that Kyle Shanahan wanted originally,
right?
So, like, he finally gets his guy, and now he has an opportunity to show what he can do with this guy, even with a more limited roster. If, let's say, Turf Toe takes a week or two and Mac Jones is fine. If Mac Jones is 5-0 as a quarterback with the Niners, what do you do here if you're San Francisco? Because this gave Brock Purdy a spade.
I don't know if you go back to him, but you have to keep riding the hot hand until further notice.
Yeah, even though you paid him all of his money, like, I don't know what you do here. That's such a sensitive situation, especially if he gets 1 or 2 more starts and does good.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a long-term thing. Like, it could just be a this season thing because how can you really justify it? Because it's not that Purdy was playing terribly when he was playing, but I mean the offense, they don't. You know what it is? Like, they're playing. They don't even have to play I don't know what the exact terminology for it would be. They're playing conservative right now. Like that first drive of the game was a very long extended drive. They got a touchdown out of it. They get the Rams go 3-and-out, and then they milk the rest of the first quarter. The Rams had 1 possession in the first quarter, and it was a 3-and-out. They took 3 minutes in that drive or whatever it was. And the Niners were just dominating on both fronts. Like, they ran the ball, which as I mentioned, wasn't getting a lot of yards, but it was milking a lot of clock. And as I mentioned, they were doing a lot of dump offs to guys like I think it's Tungus is his name, Jake Tungus, the tight end.
Yep,
Marcus Robinson, McCaffrey, and then as we talked about, Kendrick Bourne, and the monster game that he had in this one. And that's, I think, what the big thing about this offense is that when you get Kittle back, that's going to help guys like Mac Jones because he doesn't have to do anything special to get the ball down the field. Like, you're going to have your top guys. They'll probably get Pearsall and Jennings back too because being this is a Thursday night game, they're going to have a little bit now of extending time to try to heal up from those injuries and make sure they're ready for their next game.
And I think that sums it up pretty nicely, Nick. And with that being said, let's get into the mushing hour.
Yeah, let's indeed go into the mushing hour. As I mentioned, a nice little slate for us here in week number 5 of the NFL season. I believe I mentioned 6 games we have coming up as well as what we had Thursday night. You and I are already off to a 1-0 start, so that is a good sight to see. Both of us had a very respectable week number 4 last week. I think I forgot. I don't know if I did the exact number over the top of my head.
I went 4-4 last week.
I think I went 5-3. You went 4-4. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So regardless, positive 500. We'll take that either way of the week, and let's keep it up, Johnson, for this upcoming weekend. Let's start off in London. Another international game upcoming this week, and again for the Minnesota Vikings, who just played in Dublin last week. Now they go to London this week as they will take on the Cleveland Browns. Is the Vikings 3.5 point favorite, 35.5 the over under, and the big storyline, of course, Johnson, for this game. Dylan Gabriel will make the starter for quarterback for the Cleveland Browns as they bench Joe Flacco. Who do you have in this game?
Give me Browns plus 3.5 here. It's going to be a close game. It's a London game. It's always kind of funky, and do I really trust Carson Wentz that much against this Browns defense? Probably not. So give me Browns plus 3.5.
This game is ugly. This game is ugly. I think the biggest thing about this game is that these are two solid defenses. I think you're going to see that a lot in this game. I would love to take the under, but 35.5 is so low. Like, I can't justify taking an under that low. I'm gonna go. It's so tough. I'm gonna go Vikings minus 3.5, and I don't like it. The Browns probably win this game. I wouldn't even be surprised if they do, because we already saw that against Green Bay. But a rookie quarterback against a defense that is this good, that could smell trouble. We'll see what happens, but I got Vikings minus 3.5 in that one. Well, I don't know. Anyway, let's go into their next game. What's our next game, Johnson?
We have the Denver Broncos on the road taking Broncos. Nah, excuse me.
You got
The
it.
Denver Broncos going on the road to take the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are at home and they are 3.5 point favorite. Over under slate at 43.5. Eagles 3.5 here. Just give me the points. Don't really overthink this one.
I actually got the Broncos covered in this game. I think they lose by a field goal. You're gonna give me the 3.5. Might as well take it. Their defense, very good showing on Monday. That's really not saying much against that Bengals team, but I think they have a really good shot to stop this Eagles offense, keep this game close. But don't think they get the edge in this one just because they're in Philadelphia. So I got Denver 3.5 on that game. That should be a fun game on Sunday. Another game that should be fun on Sunday. It's probably the best uniform matchup we have ever probably had, Johnson. You have the Buccaneers at the Seahawks. Seahawks 3.5 point favorite, 45.5 the over under. It's the Creamsicles against the old retro Seahawks jerseys. So it's gonna be a fun one to watch. What do you got in this game?
Bucks 3.5. Let's not make this
I'm right with you. Yep.
make this hard. The Seahawks are a very good team, but I think the Buccaneers, especially when they have everyone at healthy, they can be way better. So
Yeah, they
give me
showed
the Bucks plus 3.5 here on the road.
Yeah, they had a tough loss against the Eagles last week, but they showed a good fight coming back in that game. They were down 24-3, and they lost, I think it was 31-25 was the final of that game. So
Yes, it was close.
they've got a shot, but the Seahawks definitely are playing some good football right now, so we'll see how that game goes. What's our next game?
Next game, we have the Washington Commanders going into Los Angeles, taking on the Chargers. The Chargers are a 2.5 point favorite at home, and the over/under slate at 48.5. Chargers minus 2.5. Not going to really overthink this one too. I think they're way better. I think Jane Daniels is actually playing this week though.
He is playing. That'll
be something to watch out for.
Yeah. Daniels is active. They do have him back, but they do not have Terry McLaurin back, so that's still something to note for this game. I'm going to ride with you in the Chargers as well. Tough loss last week against the Giants. They lost Joe Alt in that game, so that's definitely something to watch. But those are usually like wake-up punches for teams like that kind of get you back into a groove of things, go the week following. I think they get that. And Washington, I think the problem for them right now that I'm worried about is their defense does not look great right now. They struggled against Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson last week against the Falcons. I'm expecting a monster game out of Omari and Hampton in this one against this Commanders defense. So I'm with you on the Chargers minus 2.5 in that matchup. Now, how about this game on Sunday night, Johnson? I know you're going to be fully intent on this one. Patriots at the Bills, Sunday Night Football. Bills a 7.5 point favorite, 49.5 the over under.
Give me Patriots plus 7.5 to cover here. I'm gonna expect Drake May to kind of throw a lot of touchdowns. I'm hoping that he's gonna continue that trend because Buffalo's defense. Listen, if Miami can do it, why can't the Patriots?
Right.
So that's my logic right here. I think the Patriots are a lot better than Miami, and if the Patriots can do it, if Miami can do it against Buffalo in Buffalo, why can't the Patriots? So that's my logic.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bills have been hanging around, have had a lot of games where teams have been hanging around with them so far. Even the Saints were hanging around with them last week. I think there was like a 2 point game in the fourth quarter. So that's definitely something to note. I think Patriots looked really good on Sunday against Carolina too. I
They
got the
did.
over for that game. These offenses are thriving right now. The Bills defense still struggling too. I think this is a great chance for this game to soar over and go over 50, get out to 50 points. Now that I said that, it's probably going to be a 17-14 game, but I still think I'm going to just take the opportunity to take two offenses that are really showing good numbers so far throughout the first 4 weeks of the season. So I've got the over on Sunday Night Football. What do we have on Monday Night Football to round out the week?
We have the Kansas City Chiefs going into Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. The Chiefs are a 3.5 point favorite on the road, and the over under slate at 46.5. Give me Chiefs minus 3.5. I'm gonna eat my words now. Again, I think Patrick Mahomes will be back and all this stuff. So yeah, we can play a Charmin soft schedule, and he's gonna look good. So yeah, give me Chiefs plus minus 3.5. Yeah, whatever.
You didn't sound too thrilled about that pick.
I'm ecstatic. I'm
Yeah.
ecstatic because Patrick Mahomes for like the first time in he's not even playing that good right now. I mean, he had a big game against the Ravens, but the other three games before that was all mediocre BS. So like, I don't know what to think of this. Like,
Well, I
he
think
had
if you're
one
the
he had one game where he got the pretty much stat pad for the entire game because the Ravens defense is pretty much just you know, it's like
yeah,
putting a cheese doodle for your
they're
lock bolt. Like you're just gonna knock
they're
the door straight
Charmin.
off the hinges. So
Their defense is Charmin soft right now. Baltimore. That they've allowed like 130 points at the first 4 weeks, which is awful, so bad. And I think the Cowboys are aren't too far behind them. Those two defenses are really bad. That'd be a fun game to watch. That'd be old like Big 12 like football, Baltimore and Dallas. Anyway, going back to this game, Chiefs and Jags. I'm gonna go with you on this one as well. Chiefs minus 3.5. I'm looking at it like this. Chiefs played good on Sunday against Baltimore. I think they carry it over. They got Worthy back, which is a monster get for them. And then they're going to get Rashee Rice back soon. He's coming back in a couple weeks. I think week 7 is going to be the first game he plays this season against Vegas, I believe. They play that week. Um, and the Jaguars are playing fine right now, but I feel like this offense is going to struggle a little bit against this Chiefs defense. Um, I think their only hope in this game is going to be relying on guys like Travis Etienne to keep them alive in this one. So we'll see what happens. But until I see anything for other than that, I'm just going to ride with the hot hand right now in Kansas City, minus 3.5 in that matchup on Monday Night Football. So that's going to do it for our mushing hour on the week. Johnson, I'm surprised I even made it this week with today, I should say, with a voice after being at Yankee Stadium last night. More on that tomorrow on the show when we recap the wild card series in Major League Baseball. So, other than that, any final thoughts we have on this episode before we wrap it up?
yeah, not really so much on the episode, but we are here to promote local card shows, and that's
Yes,
exactly what we
yes,
do. And the next local card show that we will personally be at is the Staten Island Card Show, hosted by Maddie Stephen. It's going to be Saturday, October 18th, 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at St. Joseph St. Thomas Gym in Staten Island. That's 50 McGuire Avenue, Staten Island, New York, 10309. That's Saturday, October 18th, Saturday, 9:30 to 3:30 at St. Joseph St. Thomas, 50 McGuire Avenue, Staten Island, New York, 10309. One of the best shows, local shows we've seen Staten Island in a while. So
yes.
I think if you're from Brooklyn, or if you're right across the bridge, maybe in Elizabeth or in Woodbridge, or even in Staten Island, it's something that the community is desperately needed, and it's being run really efficiently. And the promoter's great, and the people are very great, and it's always a busy, fun time. Not even just to buy from the vendors, but just to walk around, talk to people. There's lots of trades that happen, and it's always it's giveaways. It's a very fun environment, and it's a very well run show. So I got to tip my cap because I will be there on the 18th. So just to promote that as well.
Hopefully, I'll be there with you. Still schedule pending right now, but I hopefully will be with you at that show. It's always, as you mentioned, those are always fun shows. I always love talking to people, even if they're we're not doing a transaction. We're just talking, talking about sports in general. Just love that camaraderie and talking about stuff like that. So it should be a fun show. In just a few, was it 15 days from now? Yeah, the third. So yeah, 15 days
Yep,
from
it's
now.
Saturday. So
That should be fun. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned, for us, we'll be back tomorrow recording our MLB episode, recapping the wild card series in Major League Baseball before they start the divisional series. That divisional series matchups start tomorrow on Saturday. So we'll see how all that unfolds. We'll be doing our recap as well as doing our preview of the series with our traditional mushy hour tomorrow morning. So definitely tune in for that show tomorrow. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. We're on to week number 5 in the National Football League. Already got things started with a wild Thursday night football finish. The Niners now go to 4-1 with the win over the Los Angeles Rams. And now we have some other big games upcoming here this week. Eagles will be hosting the Broncos, Buccaneers at Seahawks, Commanders at Chargers, Patriots and Bills on Sunday Night Football, and the Chiefs at Jaguars on Monday night. Let's see how it all unfolds going into week number 6 next week. This has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show with my co-host Andrew Johnson. My name has been Nicholas Pavona. Thank you all for joining in and listening on to this week's edition of the show. Let's see you back here next week, right here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show.